What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Ball to Bowl series. As you guys know by now, the Ball to Bowl series is an opportunity for us to come home to sit down with real men and talk about real things. Today, we have a special guest. I'm going to introduce him as Dr. Kim Scott. We got connected via online as he was able to find some of our other episodes on YouTube and reached out because he knew you'd be able to be a great value add to the series. Dr. Scott or Kim, I'm going to go with Kim from here on out. But got to make sure y'all know this is a doctor for sure. Kim, thanks for joining us today. Give the people a quick intro about where you are, where you're from, and who you are, brother.
All right. Glad to be here, Kenny. Thanks so much. I'm Dr. Scott, Kim Scott, that is. I'm right here in Melbourne, Florida, originally from a little town outside of Charlotte, North Carolina called Albemarle. Not too far from you, Kenny, but I'm just glad to be here. Thanks for this opportunity, man.
All right, so we got to talk a little bit about North Carolina, man, because we both have North Carolina roots. So I want to get into that for a second, man. One big thing about come home is you really like to give man the opportunity to reflect about what home actually means. To a lot of people, home is like the safe space.
Yeah.
Space you can be yourself, space you can be authentic. You grew up right outside of Charlotte, Albemarle. Tell people a bit about what it was like growing up there.
Oh man, it was a real community oriented. I think everyone that lived in our community looked out for each other. If you lived next door to Miss Parker, she was your mom while mom was at work. Miss Davis was at home and she was mom, and grandma was around the corner. It was just family oriented, and you couldn't do anything wrong because before your parents got home, they knew. They do. So it was a great time. Everyone was connected. No one went without because we shared everything. We shared our yards, our food, our traditions. It was just an amazing time to be a kid. It was an amazing time. So small town, real small.
Yeah. Do you have a chance to get back every now and then?
Oh yeah, I went there to visit my siblings. All 6 of my siblings are there. They live in Albemarle still, and they are all grown up. And I went there for Thanksgiving, and planning on going back in a couple of weeks for the Christmas holiday. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah.
So growing up right outside of Charlotte, did you end up being a Charlotte sports fan at all? Did you kind of grow up Panthers and Hornets? Or
Oh yeah. Panthers and Hornets. Oh yeah, definitely. I remember getting the season passes to go see the Hornets, and my older brother, he loved the Hornets, so of course I had to love them too because that's my older brother. So yeah, that was big for us. Football was big for us, but we loved basketball. So the Charlotte Hornets, that was it for us.
So coming up, who were the big players during those days for the Hornets when you were coming up?
Oh man, let's see. There was let's see. There were so many good players, and our complaint was, we need to spend a little more money to get the bad players, the good players in. But we had man, there was so many. Oh my gosh, if I could think of the little guy.
Is that around Muggsy Bogues?
Yeah, Muggsy. Yeah, I couldn't think of his name. Muggsy was an inspiration to me because I'm 5'7". Mm-hmm. And so to see him hanging there with those tall, those 6-foot guys, it inspired me to just go for the gusto. Anything that I needed to do, I did it because of Muggsy Bogues. Yes,
I like it. Was Alonzo there too at that time?
Alonzo came later after Muggsy. A couple of years after.
Was it Larry Brown? I think they called him Big Mama or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
And it's funny because obviously the Hornets left for a while and then they end up finding their way back to North Carolina. And we have an exciting team again now. You got the young guys, LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, Miles Bridges. So we'll see what happens with those guys.
Man. Oh yeah. Look, I think they spent a little more money this time getting good recruits in.
Hey Kim, they finally listened to you, man. They finally
listened to me.
I love it, man. I love it. So Kim, obviously today, man, you are killing the ball look, man. You got the fresh beard,
Look at this thing, man.
The powder
this thing. Wow. You know what? Keeping up with this is worse than keeping up with this.
Let's talk about it, man. So again, today, I know you've been, quick question. How long have you been rocking the ball look? Has it been 10 years, 15 plus?
Oh man, almost 18 years. Almost 18 years. I'm actually, and I'll tell my age, I'm 55.
55.
So yeah, so 18 years.
Mm-hmm. 55 looking 35 on here, man.
I'll take that, bro. I'll take that. Yes, sir.
every time. So man, if you could take me back a little bit, man, because all about Come Home is we want to hear the story of your hair loss. We want to hear about your journey, how you got to be here today. So if you can take me back to when you were growing up,
Oh
when you
yeah.
actually had hair, tell me more about what kind of hair you had growing up and what that hair meant to you, bro.
Right, man. I had straight hair. I had straight hair, and my parents. I used to joke with my mom about it. She declares that we were Cherokee Indians somewhere in the lineage or in the line of who we were, and so because of that, my hair would grow straight. I could never really rock an afro because my hair would lay down.
Yeah.
And so that I saw the transitions of hairstyles. I always wanted the afro, so I put the blowout stuff in my hair, made it kind of straighten and stand out. And that looked weird because my hair was naturally thin all over, but it was straight. And so I started rocking the waves. The waves
Yeah.
started coming in, and the fade on the side, and put the part down the side and swoop it to the side there, man. And so that was a good time for me because I was like, I got good hair. I've
So
got good
so
hair.
so of all those looks, man, it sounds like you had a lot of different looks. Of those
Mhm.
looks, was there one that you can think back and be like, man, that might have been my best look. That was my obviously this is your best look. We
Right.
already know that. We already know
Right.
that. Right. But if you look back at some of your looks in the past, is there one that stands out to you like, man, I really remember that look and it was a big part of my life.
Yeah, that fade on the side and that part, that
Yes,
not the
sir.
straight part, but you have to have a little crooked right there, and then you just slide it over to the side. So yeah, man, that was my favorite look, and the girls in the high school at the time, they were like, you got good hair. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got good hair. I'm good.
I love it. I love it. I love it, man. So you made it through high school.
Mhm.
When is it that you actually started realizing you may be losing your hair? Was just going into college? Tell me more about that journey post high school. Because I'm assuming in high school, it sounds like you had the good hair in high school, so there was no issues with maybe losing your hair at that point.
Right. No issues with losing my hair in high school.
Okay.
My issue started when I got out of the military. I went in the military right at 18, got out at
Okay.
21. And at 23, there's a little spot here.
Also, thank you for your service, sir. By the
Yeah,
way.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. United States Army, who there was a little spot that started here where my hair started thinning. And
Yeah.
I thought it was because I'm a thinker. And so when I'm thinking, and writing, I'm doing this right here. And, I'm studying to be an educator, later up late night, working, writing papers. And so around 23, 24, I started noticing the thinning. And then 24, 25, it started thinning here in the center. And then, I keep my little swoop pull over. And then it started looking like I was trying to cut my own hair and kind of gapped it right here.
Oh my. Okay.
so,
Okay. So
so
this is
yeah,
getting
so I
tricky.
said, I said, I'm gonna start cutting it down, cut it low, cut it low. And by 20, 25, 26, I took a razor and just shaved it off.
Mm. So
Yeah, just
Kim,
shaved it off.
take me back a little bit, man. When you first realized you're losing it, and you're like, you said, what's going on? Am I a thinker? Tell me more about that feeling when you first realized you were losing it. Did you assume automatically, like, hey, this is just like an anomaly? This is not true hair loss? Or what was that thought process when you first realized?
Right. I'm glad you asked that question. I was very concerned. I was very concerned because I said, well, maybe I need to keep my hand out of my head from thinking so hard. My dad had a full head of hair. My mom had a beautiful mane of hair. All of my three brothers had full heads of hair.
Wow.
And I'm like shaking because I'm like, what's going on with me? I mean, am I sick? Am I ill? What's going on? Then I thought about it. My sisters used to play games with me that any perm that came out, they would test it on my head first. My three sisters. And before they put it in theirs, the home barbershop, the home beautician. And so they would try it on me. It never affected it, but then I started going bald. And my grandfather was bald. He had
Mhm.
no hair here, but he had the George Jefferson on the side. And so my mom would say, I think you're taking after Pops. And I said,
Wow.
that side of the family, I said, but every one of them have gray beards and they have bald heads. And I don't want that. I mean, because I'm used to having this nice mane of hair. And of course, 26, 27, shaved it off. Of course, my beard was black at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't real popular. I think the only person that had a bald head that was famous was Michael Jordan that I can remember. And so, then my grandfather had that George
George
Jefferson look.
Jefferson.
I knew I wasn't going to do that one. I wasn't going to do that one, brother. No, sir. No way. No, no. And so that was out of the question. When I shaved it off, I shaved not only my head, but I shaved mustache, beard, everything off. So according to my cousins, I looked like a little milk dud. My siblings were like, boy, you're just so eccentric. What is wrong with you?
Wait, Kim, I got more questions here. I got more questions. So you're going through the hair loss. You realize that your grandfather was actually bald, but again, everybody in your family, for the most part, had hair. Your immediate close family.
Oh yeah.
Were you? Well, first question: what was the like emotional concern? Was there any level of self-consciousness? Also, were you getting jokes? Was the family picking on you? Friends at school picking on you, or were you able to hide it a little bit? Tell me about that.
Man, Boys to Men came out around that time when I lost my hair. So any event that I attended with a suit, I wore a hat. Bam. I wore that baseball cap. So I spent a lot of money in my early 20s with different baseball caps, different colors, polo, all that kind of stuff. My family, my siblings, immediate siblings, would always say, man, you got the perfect head. You got a perfect head. You got the Cunningham Scott head. Look at it. And I felt some kind of way about that because most of my family members, we were estranged because we were such a large family. We didn't go to a lot of family reunions and events because that was our unit. My mom, my 6 siblings, that was our unit. So any jokes came from my immediate family, especially my older brothers, and they used to say, we don't know, we think you were adopted. And so because we got hair, you got our features, and then that played emotional mismatch with me because I'm thinking, okay, I do look like my siblings, but they have full heads of hair. I don't have full heads of hair. And then going out in public, people are like, you got a perfect head. You got a perfect bald head. Just remarks. And my own self-esteem, I didn't have really high self-esteem at the time. So it was like, okay, let me get my baseball cap. I'm just going out to the store real quick, put that cap on. And that was my covering to pretty much say, I don't have to deal with people talking about my head.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, bro, because when I kind of similar situation, before I started losing my hair, you would never catch me with a hat, Kim. Never.
Right,
I was going to the barbershop every week, so I always had the fresh lineup. I would never wear hats. I had the waves too, brush my hair.
Right. Oh yeah.
Keep the brush in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? So I was tight. But when I started dealing with hair loss, man, dude, my hat collection skyrocket.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I have so many hats now that like never go home, and I'm always wearing hats. And it was tough for me because, like you mentioned, it was almost like you're trying to hide something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was tough to really be like my true self. And I was used to being very much of I think people who knew me growing up knew I had a big personality. So I was used to being out there, very much being my entire self. So the hat thing was frightening, man. Sometimes I remember like trying to go to the club. Sometimes if the bouncer said no hats in the club, then I'm like, okay, like I don't know if I want to go in. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Oh yeah.
So I know exactly what you mean because we would definitely lean on hats. And I think a lot of guys who have lost their hair have single-handedly helped some of these hat companies stay afloat because many of us
oh yes. Oh yeah.
big customers, bro. Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I started to put a hat on today, but I was like, no, it's all
No,
about
sir.
being bought. Come on home, brother. Come home and stay home. Stay home. Don't even think about going to Atlanta to get no man weave. Stay home. Right here.
Talk that talk, man. I love it. So, bro, you go through the hair loss journey. You talk about you start thinning hair. Then you're like, okay, wow. At any moment, did you consider using Rogaine, any of those drugs to kind of help you keep your hair? Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, yes. I even went to get that. There's a shampoo that's supposed to thicken the hair. I use that all the time. I would wash my hair and noticed it started getting really dry all the time. So I had to go talk to my sisters, my three sisters. What do you put in your hair? From mayonnaise to you name it, butter, whatever. We're from the country. So whatever you find to use to keep that hair moist, you do that. So when it started just going away, I embraced the fact. I said, well, I'm going to just start it wearing it low. And then I started wearing it low. And then around 26, 27, I started graying like here. And then all of a sudden it started graying here. And so it looked like I looked like a Dalmatian. When I when I cut it low, it would just be spots of gray hair. So that wasn't cool. That wasn't cool. As a matter of fact, at the time I was playing the organ at a church. And the pastor would say to me, you know what, you're very artistic because you just wear your hair, with the gray spots or whatever, and it's artistic. And I said, you know what, he's really saying cut your hair. That's what he's telling me. That's what that's what he's telling me. I didn't think much about it. You go through changes in life and you're like, well, it's not so much about the outward appearance now, it's about the inward. And so I knew though that there is a connection between the inward and the outward. So that's where I think as men we miss it. If you are not well on the inside, I don't care what you do out here, it's gonna show. It's gonna show out.
Ooh, how
It's
you
gonna
getting
show.
deep? How you getting
Yeah,
deep,
I didn't
man?
mean to get too deep, man. I'm just
No,
saying.
I love that. We got to have that. That is what
Yeah,
this is for, man. Like I
yeah.
told you, we like to have that conversation about the hair loss, because many men deal with that. But the brand, I think, does have opportunity to talk about much bigger topics, and you get into that now. Some of that mental health, some of that spirituality inside of you, because when you're dealing with that hair loss, it's almost a kind of like a combined force because you're dealing with the
Yeah.
external issue, but it's also taking a toll internally as well,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's why I think what's also funny to me, man. And you let me know if you've ever seen this or heard this. It's like a
Mhm.
lot of times, guys that are dealing with this internal battle with hair loss, you end up finding out that the people externally, like women, other people, they don't even really care. It ends up being like an external battle that you're thinking like, oh,
Right.
people are gonna think that about me, but
Right.
really, nobody cares. It's all
Nobody
the same.
cares. Nobody cares. And my siblings used to tell me that. Of course, they would say this was their analogy. You go to New York City, depending on if you're in the city, you can wear the same thing for 5 or 6 days. Nobody cares what you're wearing. It's only the people in the country that know you that want to say, why is he wearing the same clothes every day? Something must be wrong. In I think what it has to do, you have to be comfortable with who you are. And that is deeper than outward appearance, is deeper than your social status. You have to love you. Something on the inside has to say, I am worth it, I am worthy, and I'm good. I'm good. Because the world changes every day, every second. Technology changes, people change. You wake up in this pandemic craziness, you
Yeah.
could lose. I'm as a principal of middle school right now. I've known my colleagues, they've lost whole grade levels of teachers because of the pandemic. You go to school, your teachers are in the hospital, so you just start to evaluate and find the importance of just being who you are and being happy.
Man.
I don't want a wig. I don't want a man weave. I ain't trying to grow this back. I'm good.
The
I'm
thing
good. I'm
and
good.
the thing is there, man, we just finished talking about like how important it is to really know self, have a
Right.
true understanding of self, having
Right.
self-awareness, etc. And you mentioned, the things like the man weave, there's also like hair fibers you can spray, hair
Oh
dye.
yeah.
There's so many different options out there. But when we really think about it, Kim, like none of those really solve the root cause.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
Like that's another version of a hat, really. It's just
Right.
you're replacing the hat with something else. So you
Exactly.
still have to deal with those same issues. So when we talk to men on here, it's always like, hey, did you think about, man? Did you think about these things? And some of them say I've tried it, etc.
Hmm.
But ultimately, it was a patchwork solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't a
Yeah. You
solution
got
that was really going to kind of create something that was going to actually solve the root problem. That's what you're getting
right.
at now.
Right. Right. I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm really an advocate for good mental health. And sometimes where as men, we don't like to talk about what's real. We want to talk about the surface stuff. Man, my hair fell out. I was stressed about something. No, you embrace your genetics, but there's something deeper than genetics. It's wellness that concerns me. I want to be well. I want to be well on the inside to the point that I exude wellness on the outside, even in my conversations, even when, I'm with my students in school. Middle school kids can be the cruelest kids in the world. They can be cruel. Every day I hear about my bald head because I have to make a decision about, them not doing what they're supposed to do. But you know what? If I was weak, it would bother me every day. If I didn't have that self-esteem, that self-worth, the times when I go and look in the mirror and say, you know what, you're the best thing I've seen this morning. I'm the only thing I've seen this morning, but I'm the best thing. You're going to have a great day. If I didn't affirm myself, then I would take on the issues of other people. You got parent issues, you got kid issues, you got school building issues, and it would drown you at the end of the day. And I'm planning on living to be at least 90, 95-ish. So I know that the internal health is just as important as the external exercising, eating right. You got to be good on the inside, and you got to tame this mind. You got to tame this brain to say, listen, dude, I know this feels bad right now, but it's going to work for your good. So chill out, ride the wave, keep it moving.
Amen. Amen.
Got to.
Oh man, Kim, now you're preaching right now. This is already one of my favorite episodes, man, because
you
already kicked off on two things I want to dive deeper into. One, the idea of self-affirmation, right?
Yes.
Again, I grew up, when I was coming up, I was lucky enough to be one of those kids where like middle school, high school, college, I was like, the life of the party, always had a lot of attention, was one of the popular kids. So we're always like, I always had affirmations coming from from outside, people wanted to be around me. So that was always very helpful. But I went through a stage in my life between I lived in New York for a while. I left New York in 2016. I was doing healthcare consulting. I left consulting because I was trying to figure out what I really wanted to do in life. You know what I mean? Before I had the idea of come home and decided I wanted to build this business. But I was in a stage in life where I just was like, I kind of lost true understanding of purpose. And when I look back on it now, I'm like, man, that was a transformational stage in your life because you were going through something, and I couldn't really, at the time, I couldn't really communicate what I was going through, but I felt different internally, because again, I felt lost. I didn't necessarily have the sense of direction that I was always used to having, and I was definitely talking to people about it. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I couldn't even communicate it with her, right? It felt like it was this level of vulnerability that I didn't feel like I could talk to people about it. You know what I'm saying? And that, I think, that ended up having a toll on our relationship, ended up having a toll on some of my other friendships, etc. But now when I look back on that time and I think about, man, what if I had something like this podcast right here? What if I could just get on somewhere and just talk to men about, man, dang, like this is what I'm feeling. What if I had, because I think mental therapy, that's become a big thing now. Everybody's talking about it. It's not as it doesn't have the same stigma attached to it as it did, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But I think when I look back on that time, man, it's like, if only I knew what I was going through, if I had somebody to talk to about it, I wouldn't have had to be like that down. Maybe it didn't ruin my relationship. Maybe I still had some of the friends that I lost during that time period. But I do think it's so important, man, that guys have the opportunity to be open and think about vulnerability, not as a weakness, but as a strength, actually, bro.
Right, exactly, man. Because the whole deal is we were designed to communicate. And I think a lot of the reasons why we don't communicate well as men is because of the way we were raised, the stigma that goes along with, as an African American male, you cannot show any form of weakness. You don't cry. You don't cry. If you do cry, you get back in the room, you cry, fall out, do whatever you got to do, but you get up, you fix your face, and you come out with looking like Popeye the Sailor Man. You got to take your vitamins, come out with your strong arm, and do what you got to do. But I think what his transition is people understand that a battle that is internal can totally impact everything that you do. I mean, it can ruin you to the point of not being able to get out of bed in the morning, not being able to identify your talents, your skills, your innate abilities. It can just literally cripple you. And there's nothing worse than a live man walking around dead. There's nothing worse than that. And I've been there. I understand what it means to get up in the morning, put the suit on. I'm talking about your best suit. You got to put your face on, and you're walking around, and all you can see is tombstones, dirt in your face, because you are literally dead. Your relationships have killed you. Your family members, they didn't mean to, picking on you. You internalized. I want to mention, if I can, my dad was abusive, and he was alcoholic. So growing up, I'm the spitting image of my father. So I internalized when people would say, "Oh, you're just like your dad. You look just like your dad." My internal clock said, "You're going to be just like your dad." And so I did a whole lot of stuff, from trying to, change my appearance, to thinking about plastic surgery, to thinking about all of those things to fix the outside. But the problem was on the inside. And so you have to express it. So I guess, being in education, you can express yourself a certain way, but you can't express yourself to the kids. So I had to get a circle of people that really, really understood me. And that doesn't mean I used to have a huge circle, but as I've aged and matured, that circle shrinks down about 4 or 5 solid people that won't come back and say, in 30 years, we're going to write a book about your craziness. So you got to be well on the inside, man. If there's any permeating message here, you got to face that thing on the inside of you that could literally cause you to become a cemetery. You got to face it. And it's hard. It's difficult. You lose friends, you lose people. Sometimes you lose direction. But there's something about an internal GPS that says, if you will face who you are, if you will embrace who you are, then, hey, the sky's the limit.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
It's tough, man. It's tough. It's like you don't wake up in the morning saying, okay, I'm going to embrace me today. No, you have to sometimes say, I got to take a day off work. I might need to take a whole weekend and just drive to the beach and just sit there and try to figure out what in the world is going on with me.
And Kim, I think too, man, there's, going through the pandemic, as you mentioned, and not only the pandemic, a lot of the racial tension that, I think has obviously always existed in America, but, I think over the last, 10 years or so, it's been heightened. 2020 was a terrible year.
Oh, man.
With that summer with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, there's so much going on. And I think for us, that's another mental toll that we have to deal with, right? And I found myself during the pandemic, doing so much reflecting, so much reflecting to really sharpen my mind, and also give my mind some time to really just ease. Meditation is something I practice a lot. Meditation has been game changing for me. There's so much stimulus coming in at all times, living in this world, whether it's from the workplace, whether it's from external things, whether it's from relationships, school. There's so many things that can cause stressors. There has to be an opportunity for you to slow down, and meditation. Are there anything else is there anything outside of meditation that you use as a way to kind of slow down and clear the mind that you can share today?
Absolutely. I love to journal. I think journaling is an important part of expressing what you normally may not be able to find in words, verbally. One of the big things that I journal about is the past, the present, and the future. What I have to do is I have to jot down a column of things that may be impacting me in the past. And my biggest column is the middle column that says living in the moment, right now. And then my smallest one, believe it or not, is the future, because a lot of times my stress comes from thinking about the future and thinking a whole lot about the past. So my biggest column in the middle has to be that of, what about right now? What are you feeling right now? What do you feel? Yeah, you can look in the past, and there's so many things in the past that could bury your present. There's so many things in the future that we can look and say, oh my God, I need to be here because I'm at this age, and it'll bury you. But what about living in the present moment? When you get into this present moment of who you are through meditation, through journaling, it says to you, yes, I've accomplished. Look at what I've overcome. I can embrace this moment and be happy right now. Right now. That's important right now. Yeah, the future is important. We plan, we do what we do. But right now, are you well right now? Like right now. Like
Love it.
right now.
Love
Like
it.
right
Love it.
now.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 Wow, man. So this has been great, man. We already, because normally the end of the episode is usually for these conversations. But I love that we got into it very early on, because this is a lot of the time this is the meat, and this is really the root cause of some of the the hair loss stuff that we talk about.
Right, right.
I think the hair loss is like, hey, the superficial part of it, but really there's a lot of underneath stuff that needs to be uncovered for us to be able to embrace our natural evolution, for us to walk
Right.
out the house with this bald head and just be very confident about it.
Yeah.
I want to take it back to when you finally decided to shave, you decided to come home. Um, that day, did you like, how'd you know how to go about it? Did you look at a video, ask somebody? How did you know how to shave your head that day? Because it's not like,
Man,
yeah. How did you figure out what to get, what to use? Tell me about that.
bro, I tore my whole head up. When I tell you, man, I grabbed, I mean, because I never, the only thing that I kind of knew about shaving was my beard. You know, being in the military, you just kind of whack, 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 whack. And I thought that was the same thing. There are so many zones in your head that you have to be careful with. So I did use shaving cream. You know, my brother's shaving cream, didn't think anything about it. And alcohol, which was a mistake, and a disposable razor. I just put that cream on there, didn't think about letting it sit. I just went shoo, 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 shoo. And when it cleared away, the white cream was red all over. Then I knew, dude, you got to wear a hat. You look like you've been abused. You look like you bleeding all over the place. And then my crazy self, I knew, I said, in order for it not to get infected and to have all kind of dark spots, you got alcohol in the African American family is the key to everything. It heals everything. So I slapped that alcohol on there, and I thought that my skin was going to crinkle and come off. Man, it burnt me up. So I had to learn just through magazines, videos, information, that there are different zones. Your hair grows in different ways, and you don't do a whole lot of dragging. It's almost like an art, like a painter. You gotta be real careful, and you gotta know your head. You have to know your head. I know that I can't take that razor and go down the back of this neck right here, because if I do, it's gonna be bump city. So I have to really, get it while I'm in the shower. I've learned the curves in the back of this head right here. I got a big curve right there. I learned that curve. You got to know which way to go. And I made a lot of mistakes, bro. I'm talking about cuts, bruises, you name it. I did it. But after a while, YouTube became the blessing. And talking to other brothers that were bald, they were like, man, you got to use the 5-blade titanium razor. You got to use that, and then you got to go get that bump-free stuff and put it on there at nighttime after you get out the shower, and then wash your head and all that kind of stuff, put it back on the other side. So it was a learning tool for me, especially after the first couple of times that I just tore my head up, man. It was rough. It was rough. And then you got to wait for it to heal, and you got scabs all over your head, and folk wondering, Lord, has he got a disease? What's this cat got the mange? What's wrong with him? That's when you get the hat out, bro. You get the hat out, and you tell people you allergic to the sun. You just put the hat on.
Kid, dog, you're funny, man. You're funny, but you're talking about the real, man, because
Yeah.
there is this learning curve, right? And when
Yes.
I again, like I told you, when I came home that day, the barber did my very first one. Barber shaved me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was all right, cool. Like, I'm not gonna pay this guy to do this for me. It makes no
Right.
sense. Like, there's no real skill. How can I figure this out? I remember asking guys like, yo, what should I do? And the crazy thing about it, bro, is like, you can ask one guy like, hey, what should I use? What
Mm-hmm.
products? Best way to shave? and ask another guy, they might tell you two different things.
Right,
And
right.
like you said, everybody's head is different. So it's not
Mhm.
like one size fits all with this thing. So
Right.
there's definitely a learning curve for everybody. But clearly, brother, you have figured it out at this point.
Yeah,
We
I
can tell
figured it out, man.
that you got it figured out. So can you please the game? Let's talk to them today and tell them what is today. What is your routine today? What do you do to keep your skin glowing, the bald head smooth, and even the beard? Talk to us, man.
Right. Well, it's a routine. Even before when I get home from work, I want to do that shower thing because I'm around kids and parents all day. So I got to do that shower thing. So the best thing I do, I don't use real hot water because I know that dries your skin out. Okay. But I use a Nivea. It's like a moisturizing body wash. And it has eucalyptus in it, and so that aromatherapy gets in there while I'm taking a shower, and I just put it all over everywhere, and then let that water just let it sit there while I'm washing, and then I just let it just go under the shower head and just wash down. But I don't pat dry my face.
Okay.
I let the air dry. I
Okay.
just let it air dry. Get out the shower. Make sure, while I'm in the shower, I will shave.
Okay. So you do the
So
wet shave.
I've
Okay.
learned, yes, so because the moisture helps, that's an art because I can do it now without a mirror. I've been
Mm.
doing it so long, I can tell which way to go, that kind of thing. And so you get out the shower, you kind of wet, and you walk around, do your other thing, get your clothes ready, and then of course I come back with moisturizer. And I always go back to the old cocoa butter. The cocoa butter, it works. I use the old school cocoa butter. Use that and make sure that while my pores are open, I get it real good and all even all over. And my body naturally takes care of me because I drink lots of water. Lots
Major
of
key.
water. Yes.
Major key, man. That
You gotta
water
keep
drinking.
hydrated. Yes, you gotta keep hydrated, especially down in this Florida sun, man. In the summertime, June, July, and August, you bake outside, man. So you really have to stay hydrated, and you just have to really, really take care of yourself. Even with this beard now, this coarse, my hair is very coarse,
Mhm,
but I have to use I think it's castor oil and some
mhm.
bamboo oil on it, and I brush this thing, brush when I'm watching TV, brush, and pick it out, pick it out, pick it out, pick it out, that kind of thing. It's a lot of work, man. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work, but at the end of the day, when I go out the house now, I feel confident, not
Mhm.
just because I look good on the outside. I know I feel good on the inside. And
Love it.
when you get those two guys together, the inside and outside, bro, you can change the whole world. There you go. Watch out, man. You've been to the gym, man. I
Come on
see
now. You know the vibes,
you.
man. You know the vibes. You know the vibes. So
Yeah, man. We got to
so
stay
Ken,
healthy.
how often are you shaving? Because I think one thing that I realized when I came home, and a lot of guys also say the same thing, is like, hey, you know, you think, oh, you see a bald guy, you're like, man, like it don't take nothing to do nothing to maintain his head. He don't got no, bro. I'm shaving multiple times a week, which to me was shocking when I came home. I'm like,
Yes.
dang, it's more maintenance than it was when I had regular
Man,
hair. So tell me
yes.
about that, bro. How often you shaving?
Man, listen, I literally have to shave every day because I get the 5 o'clock shadow at 1 o'clock in the day. I'm talking about here it gets here, and then I have a little patch back here that I can feel when I'm thinking at work. I'm like, hey, I know I didn't miss that. And so and so every day literally, but sometimes when I know that there's a special event that I'm going to, I want the coloration to be even all over, because there's some spots that I have where it gets a little irritated, like right here. And so I may wait 2 days, and of course the kids at school say, oh, Dr. Scott, you trying to grow hair? Oh man, get some waves, get some waves. And I'm like, you know what? Say something else to me, and I'm gonna suspend you for 12 days. Get on. Yeah. But I could shave every day, but most of the time it's like every 2 days I'll shave.
Mm-hmm.
Weekends I'll just kind of let it go if I don't have anything to do and let it kind of grow out. But then by Sunday night, time to start that routine to be fresh Monday morning. Oh yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. Anything else that surprised you when you came home? Anything else that surprised you outside of the frequency of having to shave?
Man, when I came home, I I think what really surprised me was this part of my head right here it always shines. It's always, see, I had to tone it down this morning because I kept rubbing because it was glowing. I was like, oh, I'm gonna blind the people. So yeah, it's about when you're healthy, your body will naturally excrete oils. And so the big thing was, hey, I'm oily right here. And so I have to tone that down, and I have to make sure that on a daily basis, especially dealing with middle school kids, because they call me Papa Smurf. And so I want to make sure that I'm not giving them something else to talk about. Shining. But that just the fact that your skin just it glows. I mean, it's not a bad thing to me because I think that the outward appearance shows what's on the inside. So if I'm glowing on the outside, I got to be glowing on the inside.
No doubt, no doubt.
I've got to be having good on this inside.
One thing I forgot to ask you is, let's take it back for a second. The day you came home, when you found the first time you shaved, what was that immediate reaction the first time you stepped out to the public? Family, friends, coworkers, how did they receive your new look the first time you came home?
Man, I was scared to death. I was scared to death. I was like, I know they're gonna say something about this little corner of my head right here, this little round part all over here. They're gonna have something to say. People gonna have something to say. And when I went out, I think I went to some kind of community event, and folk were like, "Is that you?" I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "You look so young. What are you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm eating right and all this other stuff." And then somebody brought it to my attention. Man, you got the perfect round head, and it fits you. Your face is round, your head is round, dude. I wish that my head was like that. And so I started saying, hey, wait a minute, maybe my head doesn't look too bad. And I would bring attention to it too, because I guess being embarrassed, not wearing a hat, this is what I would do. And
Mm.
so people notice, man, you always rubbing your head. What's the matter? And then I played it off. I said, well, I was just thinking. I was just thinking about some things, but naturally I was doing the hat thing. There was no real hat, but I felt like I needed to do this to cover,
Yep.
so no one wouldn't say anything, wouldn't have jokes. But, I started embracing
Yep.
the fact that, you know what, I'm a handsome dude. I'm a
And
handsome dude.
how long would you say between the day you came home until you were like, you know what, I fully embrace this. I'm walking around confident every day with this. What was that time period you think it took?
Man, it took about 5 to 10 years.
Talk that talk.
It took a long
Talk
time,
that
man,
talk.
because
Yeah.
I'm with a lot of people, a lot of different people. Sometimes I have to attend lots of different events or whatever, and so you always go in intrinsically saying, okay, how can I hide this? Can I hide it with my personality? The beard. People are going to see this beard before they see anything else. But what I found, I mean, I've been out at Lowe's. I love Lowe's and Home Depot. I've been there, and people have stopped their cars, rolled their window down. They're like, man, you got the best beard bald look I have seen in a long time. And then, my chest comes out. And then I go in Lowe's and Home Depot and spend too much money. Because I can't handle all of that good affirmation coming from the outside.
We love it, man. We love it. We love it, man. That's amazing, man. And I love that vulnerability too, saying, hey, look, it took 5 to 10 years almost. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yes,
Because for me,
sir.
it took almost 3 years,
Yep.
And for me to be sitting here today, like, hey, I'm confident enough to start a brand about it and say, like, hey, I'm gonna go out here and scream from the mountaintops, like, hey, bald man, we up, we on
Yeah.
top now. But it didn't start off like that, because to your point, even after I came home, I was still wearing hats for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say, the first interaction I had with some women after I shaved my head, they also thought I was younger. And I was like, I'm over here thinking I'm gonna look older with the bald head.
Yeah.
And the first woman I encountered say I look younger. So I think there's all these misconceptions that men that are dealing with hair loss are concerned about. But ultimately, when you finally come home, you end up realizing, like, no, externally, nobody's worried about this except me. No, I'm not going to look older. So people may actually think I look younger. So there's all these things that you're battling that you really only have the opportunity to really realize once you finally come home. But the idea of this kind of content series is, hopefully there's some guys that'll see this and be like, damn, you know what? Like, I'm fighting this right now. And
Yeah.
Kim just said he came home and hey, they say he looked younger. Kim
Yeah.
said when he came home, they beating their horn at him at the Lowe's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we got to make sure that we spread this gospel, bro, for sure, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got to
So
make it happen, bro. Got to make it happen.
we're gonna go into the back half of the interview here now, man. And I have 4 questions that I like to have here in the lightning round. First question here, Kim, is if you can think about all these bald men that's come before us, that laid the foundation for us to be great. You know what I'm saying? You know, you talked about Michael Jordan already. Who would you say are the 3 other bald men that should be on the Mount Rushmore of bald men? Pretty much set the foundation for us to be where we at today with it.
Yes, sir. Tay Diggs.
Tay Diggs, nice.
Common.
Woo.
Yes, and Kim Scott.
Nice.
Me.
Get up there. Get up there. We love it. We love it, no doubt.
And there's room for you too, brother. There's room, but you said 3. You said 3.
I appreciate it. My man.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Next question here, man. We talked about hats earlier, you know, and one way that bald men really at this point, because anytime you can switch it up now, as a bald man is with the hat. We don't really have the opportunity to switch up our hair look at all. So a lot of men will wear hats to switch it up every now and then. If you do wear hats today, what's like your favorite style and go-to hat?
Man, I got that fedora, brother.
Ooh.
That fedora, you know, I like to wear dark colors. And so I'll rock it at school. I'll roll up in my office and I'll stop the whole school. When I walk into the gymnasium in the morning, when it's time for the kids to come together for our morning affirmations, I roll up in there with my fedora on and my suit, bro. And I stopped the whole show. Stop the whole show, brother. So rocking that fedora, yes, sir. That's what I do.
No doubt.
Yes, sir.
What color fedora?
I got blue, black. I have ones with the different colors and got the feathers on the side. All of that. Got the one with the red on the bottom. The kids love that, man. So
I love it. Nice,
yeah, man.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. Next question. You talked about your grooming routine earlier, and we know you have a super dope grooming routine. And I might could guess this, but I want you to tell the people what is your like most important, in your opinion, grooming product? It can be for beard, skin, scalp. What's your most important grooming product?
Yeah, and this is gonna seem weird because it's my toothpaste. And because you can't have a white beard and dingy teeth. You know, so that's one of the things that I'm very careful about, the type of toothpaste that I use, because I want my teeth to be as white as my beard, because that looks really strange when you got all of this and then you open your mouth and it's discoloration. And I know I could have said, you know, the bamboo beard oil and all that stuff like that.
I thought you were gonna say cocoa butter.
Well, cocoa butter too. But that, I know the other thing is I got to keep my teeth as white as this beard. I know that was kind of off.
No, it's not actually, because people love pretty teeth, man.
Yeah, they love pretty teeth. Yeah. I spend enough money on these to make them look decent. Good gracious, bro.
I'm already knowing, brother.
Yeah.
All right, man. We're going to go into our 2 final questions here, and I think these are going to be easy for you to answer because we've already kind of taken the conversation into this space early on already. So these will probably be too easy for you. But the next question here is, obviously, you know, this mini series is actually put together to hopefully with the intention of helping men who are dealing with hair loss actually be able to finally embrace it and come home without dealing with all those negative emotions. So if you knew somebody was watching this right now, they're still dealing with hair loss, still struggling, what's the best advice you could give them?
Look, my friend, let me talk. Let me look right in this camera, like I'm looking in their eyes. You have to embrace you. And the I guess the terms that I used to use as I was developing and going through all these processes, I am unique in my uniqueness. And I affirm myself every day. I may not look like Tay Diggs and all these other guys, but you know what? I am unique within my own uniqueness, and I embrace that. You know, there's nobody else in the world like me. If there were, that might be a little trouble, but that's another statement. That's another show. But yeah, you got to be unique within your uniqueness and embrace that to the point that nothing else matters what people say unless they're constructively helping you. You know, so be unique within yourself and know that your uniqueness is what makes the world bright. because I always tell people, if you go to Walmart and everyone has the same car and you go in there and you stay an hour and you come out, the problem is everyone has the same color car. You won't know where your car is. You won't remember. So it's always good to have variety, but know that you are unique within yourself and embrace that, and the world becomes yours. It's all good.
Talk that talk. Y'all heard it here first.
Better
Stop
get
running,
it.
man. Go ahead and embrace it. Go ahead and
Yes.
embrace it. Come on home.
Yes. Come on home.
Last question here for you, Kim, man. We've talked about this a bit too. You know, we know that the idea and concept of manhood and masculinity, you know, growing up was very much like you need to be dominating. You don't show emotion. Don't be vulnerable. You know, have multiple women at all times, like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you know, I believe that has been changing over time, the idea of what it really means to be a man. So I want to ask you today, in your opinion, what does it mean to be a man?
Wow. That's a deep question. That's a whole nother hour, brother. You know, I really believe that being a man is accountability. Accountability. You have to take what you've learned from the past. You have to take the social dynamic of what the world wants you to be. You have to take genetics into consideration. You have to take what you've been taught and what you've learned and what has failed and what has worked for you. And you have to blend it all together to become accountable to responsibility. Okay. We can wake up in the morning and say, you know what, screw it. The world is mine. I'm going to do what I want to, when I want to, and how I want to. But I don't think you can do that anywhere that I know of right now, because here's the deal. We are formed within an organization of systems, and you have to be accountable in those systems. I can't ride down 95 going 200 miles per hour without thinking either I'm going to kill myself, hurt somebody else, or the police are going to stop me. So it's a matter of accountability for me as a man, embracing who you are, not necessarily what society says you should be, but embracing who you are within certain systems. I tell people all the time, I'm bilingual. I can go from the boardroom to the ballroom to the classroom to the administrative office to just being cool on the weekend with my hat cocked to the side. I can just do all of that. Okay. So being accountable wherever you are in your bilingualness, you got to be accountable to it. Okay. So if you roll into the boardroom, you got to walk up in there knowing that whoever you're dealing with, you know, their mindset may be on money. So you got to switch your mind and say, you know what, I got to be about money today. When you with your boys, you're going to clown around. Hey, I got to clown. Cock the hat to the side. We're going to clown for about a couple of hours. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be bilingual in your accountability, be able to switch. And that's the good thing about us as African-American males. I know that we got to understand the power that we have in being emotionally and socially bilingual. I like that. I think I'm going to write that down, bro.
Go for it. Go for it. That's yours. That's yours. That's yours. So the idea of accountability, man, and I think for, you know, men of all ages, I think there was definitely some media messages in the past that would actually go against what you're saying. You know, there's the ability, like, you know, have as many women, impregnate as many women, you know, do this, do that. And the message wasn't quite about be accountable to yourself and others. But I do believe that we're in a different day and age where people really starting to understand the importance of being an accountable man and being 10 toes, not only to yourself, being accountable for yourself, your own emotions, but also being accountable to the people you're around, because there's a part of being a man that has to deal with leadership, right? And it's like, you can't be only accountable to you. You got to, for instance, you got to be accountable to those students at work, those kids at work, you know, those middle school students. I have to be accountable to this brand I'm trying to build and to these men I'm talking to every day via ball to ball. I got to be accountable for my sisters, my parents. So there's so many things. But if you aren't accountable, number one, to yourself initially, how can you then be accountable to everything else?
Agreed, brother. Agreed.
So you're preaching today, man, and just happy to have had you on today.
Oh man, yes.
On everything from growing up in North Carolina, to, you know, being the middle school principal with the coolest fedoras on the block.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You know
sir.
what I'm saying? to just personal wellness, man, mental wellness, because it all is so important. And I think it's all what we want this brand to help stand for. So, Kim, dog, it's been a pleasure to have you on today.
Man, yes, yes.
I do want to say is if there's anybody watching this specific episode and they want to contact you and just learn more about your story, etc., what's the best way? Is there any social media that might be the best way to contact you? Facebook, Instagram, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm right there on Facebook under Dr. Kim Lorenzo Scott. I'm right there. And also, listen, hit me up. My email, Scott_K28 @yahoo.com. I'm right there. I'm right there.
My man,
Oh, yeah.
y'all heard it here first, man. So anybody, if you heard anything today on this episode that you really resonate with and you want to follow up with Kim, definitely reach out to him. You want to follow up with the brand, you know where to find us as well. Kim, again, thank you so much, brother. This has
Yes,
been another
sir.
amazing episode of the Ball to Ball series. And everybody watching, as I always say, y'all stay bald and y'all stay bold, and we'll see you soon.
There you go. All right, man.